Listen closely. Under the neon glow there is a war you never see. Not a war of bullets, but a war of minds. Every night, millions of Americans walk into a casino carrying the same quiet prayer. Let me win just once. Just enough to breathe again. Just enough to feel like life is not always pushing back. You can see it in their faces. A waitress finishing a double shift, still wearing the ache of the day. A retiree counting quarters like they are tiny chances at dignity. A couple holding hands, pretending this is only for fun, while rent sits heavy in the back of their minds. Casinos do not just sell games. They sell relief, for a few minutes at a time. The house knows that feeling. It is built on it. Soft carpet, warm lights, free drinks, and a promise that your next pull could rewrite your story. And for most people, it never does. The odds do not hate you. They do not love you. They are simply designed to outlast you. Somewhere above the slot floor, behind a door you will never enter, another world is watching. A quiet room of monitors, rows of faces, tiny movements, a hand that lingers too long near a machine, a head that turns at the wrong moment. To the house, every player is a pattern, every pattern is a threat, and every threat is a cost. But once in a generation, someone shows up who does not beg the machine for mercy. He studies it, he listens to its rhythm, he asks a different question. If the game is a system, where is the crack? His name was Tommy Glenn Carmichael, a quiet, unremarkable name for a man who would make an entire industry panic. For 16 years, he moved through casinos like a ghost, not because he was invisible, but because he was patient, methodical, cold enough to wait, smart enough to adapt. He did not get rich by luck. He did not charm dealers. He did not rely on the one thing casinos are built to defeat: hope. He relied on engineering, obsession, and the kind of desperation most people only whisper about. The kind that shows up when bills pile up, when pride runs out, when you would do anything to stop drowning. This is the part that makes his story uncomfortable. Because he was not some cartoon villain. He was a human being. A working man from Oklahoma, trying to keep his life from collapsing. And somewhere along the way, the line between survival and crime blurred, one decision at a time, one win at a time. Tonight, we are going to step into that hidden war. We are going to watch how one man forced casinos to rebuild their machines, their cameras, their rules, their faith in the house advantage. And we are going to ask the question that still divides people in every comment section. Was he a thief? Or was he an engineer exposing a rigged game? On the screen, the words appear. The house always watches. Then the truth underneath. So does the engineer. This is Sins and Lessons. And this is the ghost who made the house blink first. Oklahoma does not look like Las Vegas. No neon ocean. No velvet ropes. Just long roads, flat skies, and the kind of towns where people know your truck before they know your name. Tommy Glenn Carmichael lived in that world. A working man, the kind America is built on. He fixed what other people threw away. Old televisions with dead screens. VCRs that ate tapes. Locks that stuck in winter and refused to turn when a family was tired and cold. He worked with his hands, and he took pride in being useful. But pride does not pay interest. Pride does not stop late fees. And it does not silence that mailbox sound when you already know what is inside. Past due notices. A payment plan. Another call you do not want to answer. At night, the pressure followed him home. A small house. A tired couch. A TV murmuring in the background. Football highlights. Local news. The weather that always sounded more certain than the future. You sit at the kitchen table with a calculator, trying to make numbers behave, while someone you love pretends not to watch you struggle. In America, we learn early how to smile through stress, how to say I am fine, even when the ground feels soft under your feet. In his workshop, the light was warm and tired. A single tungsten bulb hanging over a cluttered bench, spools of wire, screwdrivers worn smooth, a cup of coffee gone cold. And on the table, paper after paper, each one a reminder that the American promise can slip away quietly. Not with a crash, but with a slow, humiliating drip. When you are staring at bankruptcy, every conversation feels sharper. Every dollar feels personal. You start measuring life in smaller units: gas money, groceries, rent, the next week, the next month. It is not greed that breaks people first. It is exhaustion. Then came the moment that changed him. Not in a casino, but in a normal place, with normal voices. A chance meeting with a man who talked about slot machines the way a mechanic talks about an engine. He spoke casually, almost like it was a hobby. He described the casino floor like it was a factory, full of sensors and routines, full of rules that could be learned. And Tommy listened, not like a criminal but like a technician. He did not see a thief. He saw an engineer. A system with rules. A system with blind spots. A machine built by humans, which meant it could be misunderstood by humans. And if it could be misunderstood, it could be bent. That is where the moral line begins to blur. Because when you feel life is rigged, the idea of a crack in the system starts to feel like hope. Not the soft, innocent hope of a jackpot. A harder hope. A hope you can build with your own hands. He went home that night and could not sleep. Not because he wanted to hurt anyone, but because a new thought had entered his life, and it would not leave. If a corporation can design a game to quietly drain people, is it still wrong to fight the design? Or is that just another story we tell ourselves when we are desperate? On the screen, 3 words appear: a system, a flaw, a path. Tommy did not wake up one morning and decide to become a legend. He built it the same way he fixed a broken television. Piece by piece, test, adjust, test again. In his workshop, the night air smelled like dust and hot metal. The light was low, the coffee was cold, and the bills were still there, waiting. But now there was something else on the table. A question. What if the machine was not magic? What if it was only technology? Old technology, built by people who assumed nobody would ever look too closely. In the mid-80s, slot machines were changing, but many were still trapped between eras. Not fully digital, not fully mechanical. They were hybrids, full of simple sensors that watched for simple signals. They did not understand intention. They only understood patterns: light, motion, timing, a yes or a no. And that meant, if you could confuse what the machine thought it was seeing, you could confuse what it thought it owed. Tommy called his first real breakthrough the light wand. A crude name for a device that felt, to him, like a key, not a weapon. A key. It did not crack passwords. It did not hack networks. It exploited the blind trust of older sensors, the kind of trust that assumed the world would behave politely. And on a casino floor, nothing behaves politely for long. The first time he tested it, he did not look like a master criminal. He looked like any other man trying to disappear into the crowd. A regular jacket, a calm face, a heartbeat he could feel in his throat. The machine in front of him hummed like it always did, indifferent to human stories. He put in his money, he played, and for a moment nothing happened. Just reels, lights, noise, the same little theater of hope that keeps the room alive. Then the room changed. The jackpot sound hit like a siren. Coins spilled out in a relentless stream. People turned their heads. A few smiled, because that is what Americans do when they see someone win, even if it hurts. A few stared, because they were thinking about their own luck, and why it never stayed. Tommy kept his hands steady and his expression small, but inside, something snapped into place. This was not a lucky night. This was proof. Proof that the house was not a fortress. It was a system. And systems always have seams. From that moment on, it stopped being about money. The money mattered, of course. It paid the pressure off his chest. It bought groceries without counting. It made the phone stop ringing. But the deeper addiction was quieter. It was the feeling of outsmarting something huge. Something rich. Something that told everyone, you cannot beat me. Tommy had found a way to answer back. He refined, he learned, he watched. He studied how different machines behaved, how different floors sounded, how different casinos reacted when they sensed a problem. He became a student of small details. A shift change, a camera angle, the rhythm of a security guard walking past. He was not gambling. He was running experiments, and the house began to notice. At first, casinos blamed players. Then they blamed bad machines. Then they blamed each other. But slowly, the industry did what it always does when profit is threatened. It evolved. New sensors, new designs, new routines. Each patch created a new weakness to hunt. So Tommy moved too. The map of his life expanded, from quiet bars where nobody asked questions, to bright casino corridors where everything was recorded. Small towns, truck stops, riverboats, then bigger rooms, bigger lights, bigger risks. Atlantic City, Las Vegas. He walked through them like a man with 2 faces. Family man in daylight, phantom at night, always careful, always adapting, always listening for the moment the system blinked. In this chess match, the house had more money, more cameras, more power. But Tommy had one advantage they could never buy. He cared more than they did. On the screen, the words appear. Not luck. Iteration. Success always makes a sound. Even when you try to keep it quiet. Tommy learned that the hard way. The more he won, the more the air around him changed. Not on the casino floor, where people were drunk on hope and noise. Above it. Behind it. In the parts of the building that smelled like electronics and stale coffee. The places where men in plain shirts watched screens for a living. Waiting for someone to do something that did not fit. A casino is not only a room of lights. It is a machine made of people. Dealers. Technicians. Security. Managers. Executives in offices who never touch a slot handle but still feel every dollar that leaves the building. When money disappears in an unexpected way, it becomes a language, a message, and the message was getting louder. At first, the house reacts like a proud animal. Denial, then anger, then obsession. Machines were opened, logs were checked, cameras were repositioned, new rules were written in quiet meetings where nobody smiled. Security staff were trained to look for tiny signs, a hand placed too close, a body blocking a view, the nervous glance that comes before a decision, pattern detection before the phrase even existed as a buzzword. Human intuition sharpened into policy, and the machines themselves began to change. Better optics, new sensors, hidden switches, designs that assumed someone like Tommy existed, even if they did not know his name. It was an arms race, and Tommy could feel the distance shrinking. The margin for error was thinner now. The casino floor had always been loud, but suddenly it felt like a library where every footstep mattered. This is the moment where most people would stop. They would take the money they got away with and disappear. They would call it a miracle and move on. But Tommy did not see it that way. Because once you have beaten the house, even once, you start to believe the house is beatable forever. Not because you are greedy, but because your identity changes. You stop being a man looking for luck. You become a man who believes he understands the system better than the system understands itself. So when his older approach started to draw heat, he pivoted. He built something different, more direct, more aggressive, less about confusing what a machine sees, and more about targeting what a machine does. People later called it the monkey paw, a name that fits, because in old stories, a monkey paw grants wishes in a way that always comes with a price. The concept was simple in spirit, not in risk. If the casino was hardening the eyes of the machines, then the next move was to focus on the payout, the part the house could not fully hide. The vulnerable moment where a machine must translate numbers into something real, where the system has to open its hand. That shift made everything more dangerous. Now, a mistake was not just a lost chance. It was a confrontation. It was a tap on the shoulder. It was a security guard stepping into your space, smiling like a friend while his eyes stayed cold. It was the sound of a door closing behind you. Tommy started to live with that tension in his bones. The kind of tension Americans recognize from other parts of life. The pressure of being one paycheck away. The pressure of being one bad decision away. But this time, the pressure came with flashing lights and cameras in a house that never forgives. Above the floor, the monitoring rooms became sharper, almost surgical. Screens divided into grids, timestamps, zoomed hands, replayed moments, a suspicion that would not let go. Security teams began to share information across properties. They kept notes, they built case boards, names, faces, timelines, not public, quiet, professional, relentless, because to the casino, this was not just theft, this was humiliation. A crack in the myth that the house always wins, and myths are expensive to protect. For Tommy, it became a chess match played at full speed. He adjusted his routes. He changed his timing. He blended into crowds the way a good actor blends into a role. But every move he made created a shadow, and every shadow drew another camera angle. A ghost eventually casts a shadow, and the house had learned to hunt shadows. On the screen, the words appear. The net tightens. By now, Tommy could feel it in the air before he ever touched a machine. Every move under a microscope. Not just cameras, but people. Eyes that lingered half a second longer. A guard who walked past twice instead of once. A technician who pretended to fix a screen, while watching the hands of anyone nearby. The casino floor still sounded the same. Music, laughter, coins, the soft hypnosis of blinking lights. But for Tommy, the room had changed. It was no longer a place to play. It was a stage, and somewhere behind the curtain, the house was waiting for the mistake that would end the story. That is how the fall usually happens. Not with a dramatic chase. With a quiet moment where confidence turns into routine, and routine turns into carelessness. He chose a machine. He blended in like he always had. Just another man in a crowd, pretending to be ordinary. And for a heartbeat, it almost worked. Then the tap came. Not hard, not violent. Just 2 fingers on a shoulder, gentle enough to feel polite. A calm voice, close to his ear. "Mr. Carmichael, we need to talk." 16 years of being a ghost collapsed into one sentence. In that instant, the lights felt brighter. The air felt thinner. Every sound on the floor kept going, because the casino does not pause for one man's life. People kept pulling levers. People kept hoping. And Tommy was walked through a hallway that smelled like carpet cleaner and power, toward a door the public never sees. After that, the story moves into a different kind of room. A courthouse hallway. Flashes from cameras. A suit jacket that suddenly feels heavier than any handcuff. A gavel that turns a human being into a case number. And this is where America splits in two. Some people look at him and see a criminal, full stop. A thief who took what was not his, and taught others to do the same. To them, it is simple. Theft is theft. Other people look at the casinos and feel something older than logic. A resentment. Because we all know someone who lost too much in a place like that. A father who promised it was just $20. A friend who swore he could win it back. A retiree who chased one more spin, one more chance, until the paycheck disappeared. Casinos are legal, but they are built on human weakness. So when a man beats the house, some people do not feel fear. They feel satisfaction, like the system finally tasted its own medicine. And that is the uncomfortable truth. This is not only a true crime story, it is a mirror. It forces you to ask what fairness means in a world where the rules are written by whoever can afford to write them. On the screen, the argument appears in bold letters. Robin Hood. Still theft. And in the silence after the gavel, one thought remains. When a system is designed to take from people, what happens when someone learns how to take back? In the end, Tommy Glenn Carmichael did not just take money. He took something the casino industry depends on even more than profit. Certainty. Because once the house realizes it can be surprised, it can never sleep the same way again. The machines get upgraded. The cameras multiply. The policies tighten. But the real change is quieter. The house begins to fear the human mind. Today, his tools would look almost ridiculous. Metal, light, and old ideas built for old machines. Museum pieces. Artifacts from a time when the battlefield was one slot cabinet at a time. But his mindset is timeless. Because the mindset is not about a device. It is about seeing the world differently. It is about looking at a system and asking, where is the crack nobody is staring at? And in 2026, the casino is not just a building with neon and carpet. It is a data fortress. AI watching faces the way security once watched hands. Biometrics replacing anonymity. Anomaly detection tracking movement, timing, spending patterns. Even the small habits you do not know you have. The modern house does not only watch you, it remembers you. Walk onto a casino floor now, and you can feel the shift in culture. It still sells escape, still sells the fantasy of a comeback. But underneath the music and the smiles, there is a second rhythm. The hum of servers, the quiet language of alerts. A world where risk is measured in milliseconds, and trust is counted like currency. And just like before, the battleground has moved. From the slot floor to the network, from physical tricks to digital pressure points. From a man with a tool in his pocket, to a person behind a screen, anywhere on Earth, testing systems that never close. That is the part that should make you pause. Because the story is not really about casinos. It is about us, about the way humans chase an edge when life feels unfair. About how quickly ingenuity can become temptation, and temptation can become justification. Every system creates its own adversary. The more you harden the walls, the more you invite someone to study the blueprint. The more you promise something is unbreakable, the more you challenge the one mind that cannot resist proving you wrong. Tommy forced casinos to evolve. Not because he wanted to improve the world, but because his obsession demanded it. And the irony is that the house survived, stronger than before, partly because of the man who tried to beat it. So here is the question I want to leave with you. Where do you draw the line? When does brilliance become harm? When does survival become theft? And when a system is built to exploit human weakness, does that change how you judge the people who strike back? Tell us what you think in the comments. Was Carmichael a criminal, or a provocateur who exposed a flaw in a billion-dollar machine? And what story should we investigate next? If you want more documentaries about hidden systems, human behavior, and the ethics in between, subscribe to Sins and Lessons. Like this video, hit the bell, and join our community of curious minds. The neon fades. The casino floor dissolves into the glow of server racks. The last sound you hear is a distant jackpot, echoing down an empty hallway. Then silence.